Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the South Stand View. This is the match reaction for Brentford. Brentford 2, Tottenham 2. And first up on our show, we're going to be inviting the one and only Ben Kaufman. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you?
Doing all right, chilling out. It's been a long couple of days. It's been a long holiday, even though it's just started. But we're back. We're back talking the thing we love the most, which is talking about how awful Tottenham are. And it's great to see. Great to see.
As ever. The Premiership is back. Tottenham is back. Obviously, we're leading the way. First game back in the Premiership. And wow, it's always a roller coaster of a ride with Tottenham. And usually I'd say you don't know what to expect, but we sort of do know what to expect these days, don't we, Ben? I mean, just tell me about the match today. It was just a weird one.
It's something we've known about for the last 3 months. Our defence is beyond woeful. Beyond. They are so awful. Every single one of them, except for one who's not in the squad because of World Cup and all that nonsense. The rest of them, Japhet Tanganga, Eric Dyer, Clement Longley, Davinson Sanchez, Ben Davis is one I might not include on the list because he's actually been all right these last few months, but he's still not good enough. I've never seen a defence as bad as this in one football team. They are utterly clueless, and I would include Longley on there. A lot of people have been saying how good Clement Longley is as a defender. He looks better going forward. I'd rather he was playing left wing back because his deliveries into the box are fantastic. But as a defender, I don't think he's that great. I'm not seeing anything from the perspective. The rest of the team, I'm seeing small cohesive improvements. I liked Sonny's performance today, even though it's still not the greatest performance. He's played much better, but he looks hungrier today. He was making darting runs. He looked a bit more aggressive. He looked more in the play. So that is an improvement for me from a Sonny perspective. But we will not even be able to talk about the attacking output of the team whilst the defence is this bad. It is atrocious. Diabolical, which is a great pun. They are awful.
Diabolical, yeah.
They are pathetic, disgusting even for the most part. They just cannot defend. We could score 6, but we would concede 6. They are just that bad.
Ben, I mean, look, it's been the same story for the past, in all games, 9 games, in all games where we've gone down 1-0. Okay. And I believe this was the 10th game now where we've gone down and we've had to come back. The commentator on BT Sport today summed it up perfectly when he said Conte's hairdryer must be broken by now with this team. And it made me chuckle today hearing that because he's not far from the truth. I mean, he cut a very disconsolate figure today on the dugout, if I'm being honest with you, and the body language sort of was that of someone who is a bit fed up now, with this. I mean, we said it before, we might as well just tune in second half because the first half is just a no-show. But why do you think we've just come back from the World Cup, most of our players. We've had a few of our players go to the World Cup, different stages, they've come back. Do you reckon that had any impact on it, or is it just the trend that has set in from before? It's just a continuation of that.
It's not even just the second half now. It's the second half of the second half. We shouldn't tune into a Tottenham game until 20 minutes before the end. That's when you watch a Tottenham game. That's when they turn up. You can't blame the World Cup because it's been happening since I can't even think, September. It's been the entire season we've been like this. Not turning up to the second half, and I can only. Some people will blame the manager, and his tactics might be a bit too. What's the word? They might be a bit too strict. He doesn't want them. He's got this sort of mentality: if you don't win a game, don't lose. And I think the players are terrified. I think the players are terrified of losing. But the problem is, they are so terrified they're not doing their jobs.
Does that show a weak mentality, Ben, from the players?
Yeah, they're crap. We've got a squad that does not cohese with anything. We've got players from 5 different managers. Was it 4 or 5 different managers? We've got Pochettino players. We've got Nuno players. We've got Sherwood players, even if you include Harry Kane. We've got Mourinho players, and we've got We've got players from so many different managers. None of them fit the same style of football. So until we have one set of players from one manager and one recruitment philosophy, it's going to be a mismatch in my view, at least. And that goes down to recruitment. Our recruitment over the last 6 years has been pathetic. It's been absolutely atrocious. We've had to really completely rebuild our scouting network because it's just that bad. It was rotten to the core after the previous director of football was running things, Steve Hitchin. But it's a mess. Until we have one set of philosophy for 2-3 years and we've got players under one umbrella, it's going to continue to be like this because some players are going to want to attack, some players are going to want to defend. Some players are so useless, they're 20 yards behind the ball, which means everyone's onside, Eric Dyer. But we need to recruit new players. The team just isn't good enough. We have to buy an entire set of players now.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into a couple of individuals from Tottenham shortly. I just want to sort of, get into the match a little bit more, if you know what I mean. I just want to talk about, first of all, the first goal that we conceded.
Yes.
For me, it was shocking because, okay, fair enough. The ball's come in and he's taken a shot, but everyone was caught ball watching.
Yep.
And then their player just run through. No one around him, completely unmarked, and taps the ball in. For me, I mean, that's defending basics. And if our defence is getting that wrong, then there's problems. I mean, what did you make of the first goal? Because I thought it was shocking. And in fairness to Fraser Forster, it did take a deflection.
Not his fault.
So there's only so much he could do with that. So yeah,
we were completely and utterly weak on that right-hand side. I don't actually think Doherty had that bad of a game. He wasn't brilliant. But we got 2 players in Eric Dyer and Japhet Tanganga that just cannot defend. They are useless. I mean, beyond useless. How he's letting him get past him and putting a cross in the box? How's he doing that, Japhet Tanganga? Why is Eric Dyer keeping again, it's my point. Why is he 5 yards behind the other 2 centre-backs? He's kept the entire team on, which has allowed them to get up the pitch. And Longley, why is he not attacking the ball? Attack the ball. It's just 3 centre-backs whose primary job is to defend are not defending. All 3 of them are indefensible. It's an entire back line. If it's one player and it's like a moment of brilliance, okay. But all 3 of them messed up on that first goal. All 3 of them.
I mean, we made it easy for them, didn't we, Ben? I mean,
very easy.
The first 2 goals, and arguably they could have had a couple more in that first half as well.
Brentford have only lost 1 game at home in this year, I believe. I'm not quite sure. It's at least 1. I think it is actually 1 this season. They've only lost once this season, and it's against Arsenal. They are a very good team at home. That stadium is a fortress, and they press really aggressively. And we allowed them to do that. We sat off the ball. We were lackadaisical. We were slow on the ball. Brentford are a good team. People think, they're a little poxy team, blah, blah. They're a very good football team, and they've got a very good coach. I rate Thomas Frank really, really highly as a football manager. His philosophy is brilliant of how aggressive they press.
I mean, it suits their play because we invite the pressure. We're a team that likes to invite pressure and try and soak it all in and defend. The problem being that we can't actually defend. And we've been saying it for ages. We need to sort this defense out because if we are to be that sort of team where we're inviting pressure and we like to defend and then counter on the break, then we need much better defenders than what we have. Because, like you said, Ben, going forward, look at the front line going forward. Richarlison's not there yet; he's injured. But today we had Son, Kulusevski, Harry Kane. We had Perisic on the left. Doherty on the right. you'd think would create loads of chances. But the defence, being the defence, doesn't allow for such great, attacking display. And going forward, we need some sort of new blood in that back line, whether it's in January or next year. But I don't hold too much hope for this year, unless the whole Conte situation is still looming, whether he's going to sign that deal or not. And as we know, there's no point in signing players if he's going to go, right?
Yeah,
because a new manager will come in and will want to, emphasize his own philosophy on the team. Hence, he'll want his own players. So, do you agree with that? Or
well, it all depends on the next manager you appoint. If you appoint another manager that has a similar philosophy to the one we currently have, it will be fine, because then you say, oh, I've got this system. I have players that can fit my system. So you have to buy players that will fit any system, really. But we need to buy new defenders anyway. Conte is right. This team is not good enough. Not that he said that, because he doesn't want to. He can't throw his players under the bus a la Mourinho, because if they throw in the tap, he's going to be gone. So he's got to sort of try and batter them up.
Yeah.
But it all goes back to recruitment. They've got to back a manager. They have not backed a single manager in 22 years. They've not backed one of them. And whilst they do not back a singular manager, we're going to have these problems. And it's going to
even with the best managers in the world, it just shows you can have, if we're going to use an analogy, we could have a brand new Lamborghini, but what's the point if you're not filling it up with petrol or,
don't know how to drive it.
Exactly. So, you're absolutely right on that point. But look, getting back to the game, obviously we'll go with the second goal first with Brentford. Again, from the corner, zonal marking, everyone's static, and the ball goes through to Tony for a simple tap-in. For me, the zonal marking thing, I don't think with this defence, we shouldn't be zonal marking. We should always have someone on the posts, in my opinion. But for me, it's not working. But it is what it is. We conceded a second, and then Harry pops up with the header to give us a lifeline. I mean, countless times we've said it. What would we do without Harry Kane's goals? Same with England as well. They wouldn't be where they are now without his goals. And arguably we wouldn't be where we are now without most of his goals. So, he's popped up for the second one. The first one. And then obviously big shout to Højbjerg, because that was ice cold, that finish. I mean, the composure that he showed to get that second one, I thought, you've got to give him credit there. But what did you make of the goals? First Harry Kane and Højbjerg after that.
Both our goals are absolutely brilliant goals. They showed real quality. It's just a shame that we have to put in those two brilliant goals. Both of them were brilliant from our attacking players, but they've bailed out another crappy defensive performance. The honourable mention for the Brentford goal is Eric Dyer. My God, is he bad? My God.
Yeah, he's absolutely shocking. By the way, chat, if you want to get involved, please have your say on the chat. Whether it's about Eric Dyer, I'm sure Ben would like to know what you guys think as well. Yeah. We will know what Ben thinks. But just in general, just about the game, if you had a player that you thought stood out or whoever played bad, let us know on the chat. Big shout out to Bob Spur, who says, a balanced squad to match the manager's philosophy means longevity. We won't get under Enoch or Lenick. We'll continue our rebuild every 2 to 3 years. Big up, you average folks. Yeah, big up, Bob Spur. What do you make of that, Ben? I think Bob's right on that, because again, look, if we haven't got the longevity, the cycle is going to carry on. It's like a merry-go-round.
Yeah. Look at the Gooners down the road. They've had Arteta for 3 years, which means he's now got all of his players. He's built a team for his style of football. And we need to have a manager for 3 years again. We haven't had a manager for 3 years since Pochettino, and that was a long time ago. We've got to have a manager in the post for a long time. Otherwise, we're just going to be... We shouldn't have to do a rebuild every 2 to 3 years. You say, 2 players in a season, 2 players out a season, and you constantly refresh the squad that way. It's what Alex Ferguson did to a T. And he even replaced top players. If Ruud van Nistelrooy was giving less than 10% of what he wanted, out the door, here comes Wayne Rooney. Here comes Cristiano Ronaldo into the team. That is what top teams do. And he's right. Under ENIC, under this ownership, we will not back a manager because it is not the primary focus of the football club. The primary focus of the football club is to make money off of everything other than football. They do not care how many trophies we win, which is why we've only won 2 since 1999, which is unacceptable for a club that won a trophy every decade from 1950 to 2010. We were one of the most winning teams in the country. We were a massive club, and I don't think we are anymore. And that's because of this ownership. They don't care about football. And in the words of my friend Rez, who's quoted this, our chairman does not correlate spending money with success. Look at the 3 teams that are making the most success. Manchester City, Chelsea, now Arsenal. 400 million spent in 3 years. That's what clubs do. You spend lots.
You could throw Manchester United into the equation as well.
Oh, they've won trophies.
They've won trophies as well.
They're going to start winning trophies because they're spending.
And I mentioned something earlier on, Ben. In one of our groups. These managers that we've had. Poch, we've had Jose, we've got Conte now. All these managers at different clubs, different top 4 clubs, i.e. Manchester United, Chelsea. You could possibly throw Arsenal into that mix as well. And Manchester United, they would have won trophies.
Absolutely.
They would have won trophies. And at the end of the day, like you said, it all points to one person at the top of the tree, and that's the ownership, Mr. Levy and Mr. Lewis. So there is a problem, but it's until the ownership has a drastic change in ideas and the direction they want to go, we're going to have these problems, and we'll continue to sort of hope and pray that we might stumble across a cup in the future, but who knows. Ben, we are running out of time. Just before we go, who was your man of the match for us today, and how do you see the next game against Aston Villa at home on New Year's Day?
It's very difficult to have a man of the match because we were not good at all the entire game. I'm going to give it to Dejan Kulusevski. I think he showed real quality in some of the runs he made. He showed that how good of a quality a player is, and how even when he's in a corner, he can get through a player. Like Ben Mee had no answer for him that entire game. I mean, you've got to give a shout out to Mr. Kane. I think I will give him the man of the match for his goal because I think we need to back this man. He's had a terrible disappointment this World Cup, and the entire world is on his back. If we support him, he can accomplish things. We need to back our boy. We need to absolutely back him. I'll give it to Mr. Kane. His goal was phenomenal. It was a brilliant cross as well. But that header was absolutely phenomenal. It was a shame that second one didn't go in, but you can't score
hit the crossbar. But it's one of those things. I suppose we clawed our way back to a point which is more than what I thought we'd get 60 minutes into the game. So bitter pill to swallow right at the end of the game, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, Ben. Moving on to Aston Villa. How do you see that one going?
It's at home. We'll have all our players back. We're going to have Rodrigo Bentancur back, that's the key for us. He is the key for us. If he's not in the team, we cannot play football. And possibly we'll have Romero back in the team if he's not fallen over a lamppost in Buenos Aires. Fingers crossed. And I think we will look a much better outfit with better players in the team. If those two are back in the team, I think we will get the 3 points. So I'm going to say a 3-1 win for Tottenham because I'm always hopeful. Either I'm deluded or I'm just stupid. But I think with those players in the team, we should have enough to put Villa to the sword. It all depends when we turn up in the first half again.
Love the enthusiasm, Ben. Love the enthusiasm. Just before you go, Ben, where can we catch you next? What you're doing these days? Do tell us about your fantastic coffee and where people can find you for a fresh brew.
So you can find us in 2 places. one of which is at the Coffee Company, which we are on YouTube. We are at 8 the Broadway, Woodford Green, for all your coffee needs. We have a
Get down there
positivity channel where we talk about all the great things. We talk about people's cultures and we have a lot of fun, and we just want to be chill. There's a lot of toxicity in the world, and we are going out of our way to be nice to each other. And you can also find us on Tottenham on Tour with Mr. Brian Daigle, Mr. Brian Ireland, Mr. Danny Kiriakou, Mr. Ryan Isaacs, and Mr. Amir Sada, where we're doing a weekly show at the moment called Ask Us Anything, which is our flagship show currently, where you can ask us all your favourite football questions or non-football questions. We have just hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, so thank you to everyone for getting us there. And we're going to do the good fight, supporting Tottenham Hotspur, flexing those fingers, and we're going to get somewhere. We're going to get somewhere.
Absolutely.
Follow us on Tottenham on Tour and follow me at the Coffee Company for all your coffee needs. And hopefully we can bring everyone together in a positive mood.
Fantastic stuff. Guys, get over to the Coffee Company if you want a great cup of coffee. Honestly, the best coffee in London, in my opinion. I'm not over-exaggerating that. I have tried a cup, and I can confirm as a coffee drinker, Mr. Kaufman sets the bar really high. And also go and check out the boys at Tottenham on Tour. Great bunch of lads. If you haven't already done so, go and subscribe to their channel. Absolutely fantastic stuff on there. You've got the likes of very, very good people on there who know their stuff. So, Ben, thank you very much for joining us again.
Cheers,
and we hope to see you on the next one. And hopefully it's a better result next time.
Absolutely. Come on, you Spurs.
Right. Come on, you Spurs. Cheers, Ben. Thank you.
Cheers.
Right, time to introduce our next guest. He is a regular on the show, and I think we might all have guessed by now who it might be. It's none other than Mr. Haz from Hotspur TV. How you doing? Obviously, you know, no one can mistake that smile, mate.
I'm not that happy though.
You seem to put a brave mask on things, you know, when things don't go right, you know.
What I always say is, like, you either laugh or you cry. So, I mean, you have to do one of the two. So I'd rather not be crying.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I know inside you must be livid. I know from earlier on from our group chat, you know.
Yeah.
I know some of your thoughts, but you know, do share with the rest of us what your thoughts are on the game, because I'm sure a lot of us want to know, or people in the chat certainly.
Before the game started, I actually predicted we draw. I just had that feeling, I guess. But for me, it was a typical Tottenham game. I summarise it very quickly. First half, we didn't turn up. The second half, we turned up for like 30 minutes. I didn't think we deserved to win. I didn't think we did enough. Again, we'll probably go through this in a while, but the same faults are there again. I mean, you say that, but there's no surprise we have the same players that we ended the World Cup before the World Cup started. We still have, so you can't expect anything different. I was pleased that Tanganga got a start ahead of Sanchez, because I thought, oh, maybe we'll get something more out of him. But he got taken off, I think, on 60 minutes. Son, again, for me, was just absolutely not anonymous, but his delivery was really, really, really poor again. He just can't seem to cross the ball. I don't know what's happened to him. And he just for me, he had no effect on the game. And then out of the three, Kulusevski was probably the best one. He's literally our creative spark in the team. I thought Kane, despite his goal, again, I don't think he did that much. Bissouma, I don't think he played well at all. I would have actually taken him off a skip at not half time, maybe about 60 minutes. I thought Højbjerg was probably our best player. And yeah, the less said about the defense, the better, really, I think.
Yeah. But I think we're going to have more to say about the defense. Something tells me.
Okay, sure.
And certain individuals come to my mind. Obviously, you've just seen what Ben had to say earlier on about the performance of Eric Dyer, and the other one being Japhet Tanganga. Now, looking at the lineups today, the first thing I noticed was the back four. I mean, the back three, should I say, was just diabolical. I would rather have had Sanchez in place of Japhet Tanganga, because I'll tell you something. Japhet headed everything but the ball today. and it was a shocking performance from him. Let's be honest, and him getting hauled off in the second half, I think, came a bit too late. To be honest, I think he should have come off in the first half or at half time. But firstly, what did you make of Japhet Tanganga's performance today?
Well, I want to disagree with you. I thought he did, all things considered, that it was his first start in about maybe half a year. I don't know, half a year, yeah. I thought he did okay, but I can see what he's saying in the sense of like he just wasn't. Ivan Toney was bullying him, and was it Mbuemo? Is that his name? Mbuemo? Yeah,
Mbuemo, yeah.
Mbuemo, that's how you say it, yeah. They were both giving him all sorts of problems. But for me, I was just positive of the fact that I'm not a Sanchez fan at all, and I'd rather just give someone else a chance on the right. But I don't think he's the biggest problem in our defence. I know he played really badly, but for me, there's one player, and you mentioned him already, but he's the biggest problem.
Yeah. I mean, chat, what do you think of Japhet Tanganga's performance today? Let us know, because obviously, I mean, obviously I respect your thoughts, mate.
Yeah.
I just thought he didn't have a great game today, but for me, obviously Dyer was in that category as well. For the second goal, I don't know what he was doing, but he sliced that clearance, easy clearance, you know. But for me, Tanganga was just, even if he was half a year out or whatever it is, you know, as a professional footballer playing in the Premier League, you come back and you're ready. But yeah, let us know, chat. Obviously, we've got Scott M in the house. Just want to say welcome to Scott M. He says our midfield in general was awful, but Bissouma in particular was awful. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of them didn't cover themselves in glory today. I think Bissouma, yeah, again, not one of his strongest games today for me. Wasn't commanding enough and gave away some cheap fouls. What do you make of his performance today, Bissouma?
He just, I don't know what it was, but he just couldn't hold on to the ball. He couldn't pass the ball. He couldn't. It makes you think how much we miss Bentancur, because Bentancur is a very solid. He's more than solid, but as in, you know, you're going to get performance out. I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that you know you're going to get performance out of him if he plays. With Bissouma, it's like we've seen little spells where he's looked good, or like one game here and there where he's looked good, but today he was just so bad. And I think, I don't know whether it's to do with the fact that he was being asked to do like two jobs or a different job that he's normally done when he's come on, because I don't know if you noticed that Bissouma's best performances have come when we played 3-5-2 and he's kind of sat.
Yeah.
In today's game, he's playing with Højbjerg, and I thought there was more emphasis on him to get forward, say, compared to before. And I just don't think he controlled the midfield at all. I thought Højbjerg kind of ended up playing two roles because Bissouma he was that bad.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I would have taken off a Skip at half time, probably.
Yeah. Skip, you would have put Skip on in place of Bissouma.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a tough call. Obviously, the manager favours Bissouma ahead of Skip. I mean, Skip, it's funny how he's sort of fallen down the pecking order ever since Conte's come in. But before, you know, with the likes of Jose and even Nuno, you know, he was getting in the team regularly. So, but yeah, Bissouma and obviously Eric Dyer. Eric Dyer's performance. I mean, everyone knows your thoughts on Eric Dyer has.
Yeah, I think most people.
You know, today, you know, the second goal come around because of his mistake, really. And you know, commentators cursed. You know, he said if something comes from this corner now, Conte's going to be livid. And then no sooner does he say it, they score from the corner. But,
so I was saying to him, quite funny on the stream I was watching. So it was on Greek TV or something. I watched on Greek TV. So obviously the commentary is different. Now our stream cut literally just before the corner. So I only saw afterwards that Dyer gave away the corner. And I was like, what? And we conceded a goal. I was like, really? But for me with Dyer, the reason I bring him as like the most important player, not as in because he's good, but as in that back three, is because he's playing in the middle.
In the middle.
And he's meant to be this so-called leader, this so-called commanding centre-back who's meant to set an example really for the other two and control their defence. Like, I know he does his shouting and his gesturing or whatever he's trying to do, I don't know. But he's not a leader, and quality-wise, he's obviously not good enough. I think we've seen this enough times on those different managers. If you remember back, Jose played him in a 2, remember in a 4-4-3-3, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that was meant to be his chance to cement himself as a centre-back, I remember. and he was like awful. And then obviously we tried him in the 3, and he's still bad. Like surely at this point the experiment needs to end, and we need to sell this guy because this is getting ridiculous.
I mean, right. Going back to, sorry, Scott made a comment saying no problem starting him over Sanchez, but clearly wasn't ready for this level, even against Brentford. For me, Japhet Tanganga had his best days or played well when he had some sort of leadership qualities in the back with the likes of Vertonghen and Alderweireld to guide him and to carry him through the game. Now that's gone, it's no coincidence that his performances have dipped, no confidence. He couldn't even control the ball today. There was one point where the ball come into him and, he literally booted the ball back to the Brentford player. For me, possibly not ready. I know I said he's a Premier League player, but you should be able to come on and do a job. But today, I just didn't think he had a great day.
Is he 24 now, Haas?
He's not a young, he's not a spring chicken anymore. I think he's about 24, 23, 24 now.
So the times sort of.
Yeah. But look, we've spoken about the defense. Let's get to the attack before we go. Harry Kane, obviously, he's our saviour once again. Scores a fantastic header, and then Højbjerg shows fantastic composure to slot the second one into the back of the net. I mean, from that point, did you see us taking the game?
At that point, the momentum was with us, and I did think we might get another goal. But when we had that chance and he hit the bar, and then Brentford went the other side, and I think they had a chance, and I was like, that's it. I just. Because we sort of had that spell, that 5-minute spell after the second goal, where we looked like we might get another one, but then for some reason it just kind of stopped, and then the game sort of evened itself out again.
Yeah, it was kind of stop. So I mean, we didn't turn up for the next second half. We didn't turn up again. 20 minutes. We thought we'd come out of the blocks. We didn't, and then we ended up conceding the second goal. But we come back into it after the Harry Kane goal, and it was a fantastic header for me. The cross and the goal.
It was a Longley, wasn't it? I think, wasn't it?
I think it was Longley who got the cross in, but it was a great cross nonetheless. Yeah. And he gets his head on it, guides it into the back of the net, past the keeper. I think it was a brilliant shot, a brilliant header. But the second one for me, Højbjerg, he showed fantastic composure. Many a player would have just booted that straight away first time, but he took his time and got the shot away, and I thought it was fantastic. But there lies the problem in that why do we not start the games in this fashion? We leave it to the last 20 minutes to try and salvage something from the game. I mean, it's ridiculous, and this has been going on. Bear in mind for the last 10 games now, we've been starting this way. And it's something that's got to change drastically. Big shout out to Hotspur again. What's up, you handsome gents? At a Christmas thing, so can't stay. No problem at all, Bobby K. Be good to have you on the show at some point whenever you're ready, mate. If you haven't checked out Bobby K's YouTube channel, Free Spurs Boys, make sure you get over there. Fantastic. Him and his boys doing some fantastic stuff over there. So in general, how do you see the next match against Aston Villa? We're going to have possibly a full-strength team by then. Do you think we'll sort of fix up by then, or
I think we'll scrape a win, like 2-1 or something like that. But I don't think it'll be convincing. Until we sort out the defence, we're going to have problems every game. But do you think that the reason why we start so negatively is partly because of the defence itself, in the sense that the forward players or the midfield don't feel comfortable pushing up? I don't know if you noticed this, but even when we take goal kicks, it's like
we don't really take goal kicks anymore. We roll the ball out these days.
That's what I'm trying to say.
We play out from the back. I think the thing is they don't take goal kicks. They want to sort of keep possession of the ball, so they roll it out and play from the back. But I mean, for me, the spine of a team, it all starts from the defense. If you look at all the top teams, they've got solid defenders. so the attackers don't need to worry as much about the defending side of things. Whereas our lot, like if you lose possession, you got to get back because there's no faith in that defense. Whereas you look at how many times, you know, teams like Manchester City, even Chelsea, they happy to lose possession wherever it is further ahead of the pitch because they know they've got the players to mop up and win the ball back. But we just don't do that. You know, we sort of have to rely on bang average defenders to try and you know, defend, and it's worrying. And he does need to be backed. He needs to be backed.
But for me, I'm going to do a video of this on my channel probably tomorrow, like a short video and post it. But there's all this talk about Conte signing a new contract and blah, blah, blah. I think you and Ben was speaking about it. And obviously, we want Conte to be backed. But really, don't you think that, as in the way I see it, is that surely Conte won't sign the contract until he sees what happens in January because there's no motivation for him to do it.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
He wants for us to back him, but it doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, as in,
he wants assurances that he'll get the players that he wants. For me, it's a worrying sign that he hasn't signed the contract now, or they've extended it, because that says to me that they don't want to sign players. Otherwise, he would have signed the contract by now.
Obviously, you've heard all this Poch talk as well in the background.
Yeah.
Because even as the goal touched on it, and he said something like, "If Conte was to go, Poch could come."
That's not guaranteed. I don't think. You know, look.
I don't want Poch back personally, but I'm just.
But if Poch has any sort of dignity, then, you know, and pride, self-pride, you know, he wouldn't come back after what Levy did to him. Let's be honest. Maybe under a different ownership, but I certainly wouldn't go back to, you know,
to Tottenham,
to whatever's going on over there. But we spend most time in possession with our worst players on the ball.
Yeah, that's true.
That's from Kuva. Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And talking about Kuva, he's actually our next guest, has.
Yeah.
But just before we let you go, we know you've said 2-1 to Spurs against Villa.
Yep.
Fantastic. Just let us know where we can catch you next.
Okay, so I have my own channel, as you know, Hotspur TV, and I stream generally on a Thursday night and a Sunday night, just on a weekly basis. And then I do the odd video here and there. And like I said, I'm hopefully going to put out a video tomorrow about this Conte stuff, because it's really pissing me off in the sense that I don't think people are viewing it the right way, just in my opinion. I'm just saying. So if anyone's offended by that, it's fine. But, and also, you probably already know this, but you can find me hosting this channel in the future as well. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I think that's all the places. And I sometimes appear on other people's channels, so that's sort of like a here and there sort of thing. I guess. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, obviously has often covers for myself and Marlon. He's very much a part of the team at the South Stand View, and he's also got his own channel, Hotspur TV. And if you haven't checked it out already, check it out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button on any videos you watch, because it helps him out. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll see you very soon for the next one. Yeah. And before we go, come on, you Spurs, obviously.
Come on, you Spurs.
And all the best. Enjoy the rest of your festive period.
And Happy New Year, because I think the next time we speak will be New Year.
Fantastic stuff, mate.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Right, it's time to bring on the big man himself, Mr. None other than Kuva.
Bit cheeky.
How's it going, sir?
Spurs are back. It's like we never left, doesn't it?
Well,
yeah. Do our best.
Carry on as you mean to go on.
Yeah, do our best to throw the game away before we start playing, and try and claw it back and repair the damage. We keep saying we can't carry on playing like this, but we do. Is it good enough? No, of course it isn't. We're not going to win anything like this. I think it's more worrying now what we start hearing from Conte, or the fact that what he alludes to, the things he can't say.
Can you give us a quote from today, Kuva? I believe Mr. Conte mentioned a certain something in his press conference. I believe you may be aware of. If you can,
I'm not sure if I've heard the press conference once, but unless it was the little clips I saw going around some of the channels. One of them that caught my eye was I think it might have been Alistair Gold or someone like that.
So in his press conference, for those that haven't seen the press conference, he said, I quote, "With central defenders, we are good."
That was the one.
We are
dear.
good. I don't know what that means. I don't know whether he's been told to say that. I don't know whether he's playing, a game with the ownership or it seems like it's a game of chess at the moment. It seems like it's a game of chess.
Yaphet Tanganga's a good player who needs time to develop. He
Well,
started. That's the first game he started since January. How's he going to develop? It doesn't make sense. These are just stock statements that are getting put out. He doesn't believe a word of it.
I mean, chat. What do you think of Conte's comments at the press conference? If you've watched the press conference, obviously, if you know what was said, get involved in the chat. Let us know. I mean, for me, it's not. I mean, if we can all see it as fans, supporters, the defense is absolutely shocking. If we can see that, surely he can see it day in, day out on the training pitch and after every match day or during the match. He can surely see that. And I think personally, it's very worrying signs that he should come out with something like that in a press conference. It shows for me some frustration there. What would you say, Kuva?
I think especially when you put it together with some of the quotes from earlier in the week about Conte saying he's not allowed to say what he thinks the club should be doing. Wow. And then he carries on in the same conference telling us what the club is doing. So clearly the two things don't go together, do they? What the club is doing is not what Conte wants the club to be doing. His contract's running out soon. Do I see, do most of us see him signing an extension to it? No. I think this is somebody that's towing the line until the contract's up and they're just going to swan out the door.
I mean, if you're Conte, your contract runs out at the end of the season. Surely with that, with what's going on with the ownership at the moment and the whole debacle, you'd say to yourself, do you know what? I could be out the door at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I don't want any more of this. Would you be saying that to yourself if you was Conte?
Yep, absolutely. Getting paid a nice, handsome amount.
I mean, hassle-free as well. There'll be no complications. You see out your contract. I've given it a go, but it's simply not working.
I mean, people will say, right, is it going to damage Conte's reputation here? No, of course not. It's, people know what the hell goes on here. He'll just walk out of here. I think back to Italy, he can walk into a number of jobs there, really, or just wait for one he fancies more. I mean, he's not going to be short of a penny or two after his contract with us.
Scott M. Scott M. Comments show he has no control over the squad. Absolutely right. That's very good observation, Scott. Absolutely. I mean, that is in itself very worrying. The fact that these comments that he's making. It clearly shows what is going on.
Well,
control whatsoever.
We saw confirmation of it ages ago in the summer, didn't we, with the whole Jed Spence thing, and people saying, "Oh, it's a Conte signing and everything," and then he came just bluntly out with, "It's a club signing." I think if people didn't open their eyes then to how the clubs run, they've really missed the point there. This is not a club that buys for the manager; it's a club that buys for what they think the manager should be working with. As for Paratici cooking, what are we going to be served up? Pot noodle? It's there's nothing happening here. I mean, the carried on about the signings was the policy from the club will be buy young players on relatively low wages. Wow, the ambition, eh? We're really going for it. One of the richest clubs in the world. Club policy, buy cheap.
I mean, Kuva, there's no problem with buying young, cheap players as long as you've got the core. The core of your squad is full of a bit of quality. Like there's no problem. I mean, Manchester City do it. They buy some quality young players. This young chap they bought from Argentina being one of them, who's turned out to be quite good and perform well at the World Cup. But
Arsenal do it as well.
Exactly, and there's no problem with doing that. But when you're when you're sort of prioritizing that ahead of anything else, that's it's quite dangerous. Would you say?
Well, how much have we spent on Udogie, Matasar, Jed Spence? None of these play. So what are we doing? We're buying those young players on relatively cheap wages. We don't even play them. They're not going to develop with us. They'll just sit and waste away like everybody else does. Brian Hill, how much does he play? He gets paid 90 grand a week. We're not even going to be able to sell him because nobody's paying those wages for him at this point. So, yeah, like you said, if we got quality there, you can bring in youth to go with it. But we're lacking quality in a lot of positions at the moment, despite what Conte says. I think the new thing is just don't believe what Conte says. It's scripted. He doesn't mean any of it. So you just use your eyes, see what's happening, see who goes on the pitch. You can tell players aren't good enough for the job. I think the only interesting thing otherwise from the conference would have been the things he didn't say. Because if he's saying the central defence were good, he didn't mention anything about the wing backs at that point, did he? So perhaps that's a hint that he's not happy with certain people in the right wing back, etc. Perhaps, or maybe he's on directions to just play them a bit so he can bring their values up. Wouldn't surprise me either. Either way, we're going nowhere now. It's just going to be same as. I was expecting it to go the same as we start off slowly in the game today and then try and claw it back. I think we all were thinking that, really, weren't we? It's become the norm.
The worrying thing for me, Kuva, is in a couple of weeks' time, we're playing our bitter rivals from down the road in our stadium, in our home. And, you're fearing the worst at this point, aren't you? I mean, the way we're starting the games and the way they play football, it's just a recipe for disaster, would you say?
Yeah, well, I'm making my point pretty clear lots of times, all this season, pretty much most of the last season. I just feel like we're being spoon-fed a whole load of bullshit constantly. I'm sick of it. The only thing that now interests me is seeing Enoch go. We are not going to change until they're gone. Doesn't matter which manager we get in, they will be thrown under the bus. And it's no good fans saying back Conte, because we can say that all we want. The person that has got to back him is the one that isn't going to. It's the same every single manager we have. Every one of them gets sacked. Nobody retires here, not as a manager. You get thrown out, thrown under the bus, move on, rinse and repeat all the time. It's totally sick of it. When you got no football worth watching to go with it, at the moment, are we really happy with just glimpses of things in a second half and hope to get a couple of goals out of it to make the first half tolerable? That's not good enough, is it? What plan is that? There's no ambition. There's a lack of talent, and we've got a manager now that we thought was going to shake things up, who just toes the line and says what the chairman wants to hear, so he doesn't kick up any fuss. This club's broken. We just need to fix it. It's all good. Now the talk about, oh, look, 4th place. Well, how long are you going to be able to say that for now? How long will you say Champions League still in that? How long for? What happens when we go out of those? First domestic cup competition we came to this season, crashed out of it in spectacular style. This is not a club that's going to win anything. So, yeah, worried, definitely. I see no plan. The only plan I see is the fans united and say, get the hell out to the owners.
Yeah. And, earlier on in the season, or even up until recently as well, we've been seeing people saying, I'm not bothered if Conte walks anymore, or I don't want to see Conte at Tottenham anymore. And it's just, for me, it's baffling because obviously we've got a great manager there who's arguably won the lot almost, barring the Champions League, but plenty of experience, one of the best managers in the world. And we've even seen, we seem to have broken him as well. So if we can't get a tune out of the likes of Conte, then yeah, it's got to sit with the board and the directors up above, and that's a fact. I mean, we can't continue. I mean, where do we go after Conte? Where do we set our sights?
Should we have another sort of 10 weeks of the fantasy manager hunt? That's what we can do instead of fantasy football, fantasy managerial appointment, and we can do a point system. Guess who we're going to get? Nobody knows, do they? Is it going to be somebody that even people have heard of, or are you going to have to start going for sort of Eastern European managers now that did well in the second division of the Bulgarian league or something? We're heading that way. It's either that or we start going for the big name managers that we don't want. Christ, could we be going down a Sam Allardyce route? I wouldn't rule it out at this point. I really wouldn't. There's just it's desperate attempts to grab something at the last minute. Anything cheap will do at the moment, really. I think Levy will even give up on going for the big name managers because they're too costly as well.
I mean, how long do you reckon most fans? I mean, most fans are quite divided at the moment. I do appreciate there's a lot of people that still, sticking by the management and what they're trying to achieve, or what they haven't achieved, shall I say? But does that surprise you, first of all, that there is a divide? Should we all be singing from the same hymn sheet, or do you reckon it's justified?
It's not going to happen. I think some people don't care enough. There's always going to be a selection of fans not bothered. They just tune in for the football, not really don't want to take part in a lot of the other stuff. There'll be a section of fans can't do much about it. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get to the ground to protest as much as I'd like to. And believe me, I would like to. That'd be nice. I'd have a nice little meet up with the likes of Brian Daigle and that. I'll have a bit of a laugh while we're protesting. But
shout out to Brian Daigle, by the way, who's in the chat. Yeah, enough love, brother. Thank you very much. Every single day is Levy Day, Levy Out Day. Absolutely. Big up everyone in the chat, and my brothers are Kuva and Hass. Thank you. And sorry, Kuva, you were saying.
Well, lost stream of thought, isn't it? So it's just more of the same, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
I think eventually people are going to get so sick of the constant recycling of what we do that they will gradually come over and see what we've been seeing for a long time. How long is it before people finally break on these sort of things? I mean, I made the mistake of getting my hopes up that Conte and Paratici were going to be the duo that would break Levy. That didn't work. It's exactly the same. The only thing that changed in that summer transfer window is we got the suboptimal sort of transfers done early. That was it.
And again, that was, bit of Levy pulling the wool over everyone's eyes to say, look, we've done our business early. We've not done this for God knows how long. And, the fans, again, they were ecstatic at the time. But ultimately, we've ended up with not a great window, to be honest. Lacking. I mean, you can look at the substitutes bench today. Who could we have brought on to change the game? Or, we did claw it back in the end. But if you look at the bench, we had the likes of Brian Hill, who doesn't get a sniff. We brought on a defender. It's just for a club of our size that shouldn't be happening. I mean, you look at the other clubs playing this week, the Cities, the Chelseas, and the bench they have, even though they've had players go to the World Cup, it shouldn't be an excuse. It shouldn't be an excuse.
Yeah. The fact that we go 2-0 down against Brentford, I mean, yeah, Brentford aren't an easy team to play against, sure. But the fact we're actually expecting this kind of thing now, it's not the norm for other clubs, but it is for us. I mean, what do I want to see most in this club right now? Some bloody honesty would be good. Trouble is they can't do that. What's Levy going to say on a press release to the fans? We're shit to watch. We're not going to win anything, but at least we're doing it cheap. And we don't have to pay for a lot, but you will.
But we released
too well, is it?
But we released a statement to say that 150 million pounds was being injected into the club at the beginning of the season.
Well, to be fair, in the small print, it did say about it was to go for activities both on and off the pitch. I think the off the pitch bit is quite a big part of that. Plus,
and there's a lesson for everyone.
It gets paid back to ENIC if we don't draw it out soon as well, I believe.
And there's a lesson for everyone. Always read the small print, especially where Mr. Levy's involved.
Yeah. There's levels of small print that nobody's heard of. They'll have to get the old Hubble telescope out to read some of it. Yeah, there's always clauses and everything. They wrap it up in enough details and flog it on and pretend you're still doing well. Doesn't matter as long as the club value keeps increasing. All's good. Football doesn't matter, does it?
No, absolutely. You're right. Just as we speak, West Ham's just gone up 1-0 against Arsenal with a penalty. Hopefully it stays that way. Makes no difference to us anyway, but yeah, there we go. Rob Belcher, shout out to Rob Belcher. He says, will Conte stay? I'm leaning towards it doesn't matter. As with all others before him, he won't be backed. January will tell us once again. Owner's not giving a flying fig about upgrades. Yeah, absolutely. And the most telling thing, Kuva, is I've seen a lot of people now saying, I'm not bothered if he goes because nothing's going to change. It's worrying how things have changed within a year. How we were saying, Conte, we need to do everything we can to keep him. We need to back him. And it's gone to, well, I'm not bothered if he goes now because it's the same old, same old.
Yeah. Have this regular argument with people about, Pochettino. People don't want Pochettino back because he didn't win anything. We're in a damn sight better space than we are now. We're playing some good stuff and on the brink of things. That's when we needed to invest. That's when we needed to make that push forward that we never do. Now we've got the downside of it with all the squads aging, players leaving, substandard level of so much of the tap we have got, and we just buy backups for mediocrity in the first place. So it's a frustrating time. We've done it before. We'll do it again. You'd think all these markers that the club puts down as signs we're going to kick on, new ground, Champions League football, it should all be leading to somewhere better, shouldn't it? But still, we're just pushing yet again to try and stay in with the Champions League. That's the only goal. Keep it that money, even though the money does nothing. We'll squander it on rubbish, always do. Throw the next manager under the bus as well. Conte's gone. Just work out who we're going to sabotage next. Come to Spurs, sabotage your career. It's where football goes to die.
I mean, on the plus side, Kuva, we make a fantastic boxing venue. It's got to be the upside to everything, right?
and if you're a big Lady Gaga fan, you're in luck. Yeah.
Stepping away from all the doom and gloom, we've got to try and salvage something from the season now. I mean, it's not all gone. We've got, we're in fourth spot still, albeit for another day or so, depending on how other results go. But are we still fourth at the moment? No, we are fourth at the moment.
Hanging on for the moment.
Yeah, so we've got Aston Villa coming up next. And then I believe we've got an FA Cup match against Portsmouth at home as well. How do you see those two going? I mean, we're at home against Aston Villa.
Villa, I just watched playing against Liverpool, and despite the scoreline, Villa gave them a bit of a game there. There was a lot of fight in that side. You could argue Liverpool were getting away a bit of murder. Their treatment of Ollie Watkins was scandalous. Heavy-handed him all times. It worked for them, so, fair play. But what happens with them? They don't go there and think, oh, let's give them a 2-0 lead and then we'll start playing because that's going to work. Well, let's think. How are we going to play against Villa? Are we going to give them the lead? You bet your ass we will. So then it's a question of, can we overcome that yet again? What happens if they do go 2-0 up and we come back and rescue another point? How long are the fans going to see that a point isn't very good? It might be
they had players out today as well. That was with a few of the Aston Villa players missing as well. Most notably, Matty Cash wasn't playing along with a couple of others. But you'd think they'll be full strength come next week as well when they play us. So even when we beat them 4-0, wasn't it, last season? The away game. Until we scored the first goal, they were battering us. Absolutely. I
mean, it all gets forgotten very quickly. That's amazing. A couple of goals, it suddenly changes the whole outlook, doesn't it? But if you really look at the game on the whole, you should be a little bit worried about this sort of thing. People were dismissing Brentford today. Why? I don't get it. It's
no, absolutely. I mean, they absolutely battered Manchester City the last game they played, and that was at the City ground. So, and it just shows they're still on a high from that game. They're not. I believe it was Ben who was talking about. They've only lost one game in their stadium all season, and
Yeah,
they're not an easy proposition by all accounts. But
certainly not. But it still doesn't mean you can justify giving them a 2-0 lead so easily.
Oh, absolutely not.
Sitting back so passively, it's disgusting.
But look, the one that worries me the most, Kuva, is against the likes of Portsmouth, because we do like to throw in the odd surprise, shall we say, during our cup games against the lower division teams. And we've already had as well. Yeah.
Not just that Forest result was disgraceful. We had last season, Middlesbrough.
I believe it was Middlesbrough. Yeah.
Let's not forget MS Moura as well. These are things that happened under Conte's reign. I mean, let's acknowledge that we only just scraped our way through the Champions League, and that was that easy group that everybody was talking about. We had to go to the last game and get a result. We did. How far is it going to get us? I'd say that, all due respect to AC Milan, we've dodged a bit of a bullet in the next round. Because if we'd been drawn against a Real Madrid or a Bayern, God help us. We're getting away with murder, not making the most of when we do have a chance to do something. Every time we play a good team this season, we come up with nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We just got to hope for the best from this point and hope that our players come back. The ones who've been missing, likes of, Hugo didn't play today, but you can't really blame Forster for the goals today.
It's unbelievable. Some people blaming him for that first goal. That deflection.
Was a deflection, and he's a big guy to get down. He's not as agile as Hugo, who's slight, and he's always going to be more agile than Fraser. But he couldn't do anything about that. And the second one, the tapping, it's not going to do anything about that either. You can't, you can't foresee. Well, he could have probably foreseen his players doing that, but he was unmarked. But hopefully,
I think you have to really look at it. The fact that every time Brentford attacked, you worried. They looked like they could score on every break. Even the offside disallowed goal in the first half. It did look offside when it was played, but he still thought, thank God, because he was clean through. And we give away these sort of chances. You rarely see that the opposition do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think positive notes. We're going to look at Kane's banging goals in. He doesn't seem affected by what happened with England. Kulusevski's in the team. He's looking sharp. I don't know about you, but I thought first half in particular, Sonny was looking a bit sharper today. Not his brilliant best, but he was really driving forward with a few runs, skipping past people, making a bit of room for himself. And some of the shots that were saved, they were clinical shots. It's just last season they would go in just inside the post. This time the keeper's getting a hand to him. So that's the sort of positives. We do have some talent in the squad. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Just it's all at the attacking end. It's the business end, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got no issues with the attacking end of things. You look at that trio, the front three, Son, Kane, and Kulusevski. That's got to be up there with some of the best attacking lineups in the league and Europe, you'd say. Fantastic up front. But, ultimately, like I was saying to Haz earlier on, the spine of a good team starts from the defence. And if you've got a solid defence, you've got great defenders. You're not so worried about losing the ball in midfield or up top or wherever it is you lose it, because you've got the backup and your defence can deal with it.
But remember, Haz, our defence is good.
Oh yes, yeah. For those that have just joined the chat, we're talking about Conte's press conference today, who mentioned that our defence is actually good. So that's where that one's coming from. But look, if a player stood out for you today, who would that player be, Kuva?
Wouldn't be on our team.
It could be from either team.
I thought Tony was an absolute handful again, as he always has been. What was his name? There was one first half. There was somebody man marking Kane of Pinnock, something like that. He looked like he was doing a solid job. Kane didn't get a kick in the first half, but he lost the way a little bit. So for me, overall, for us, I think Højbjerg was quite industrious. He was at least trying to make a few things happen. I think Kulusevski is obviously, doing his best to get a few things going, but he was fairly quiet by his standards, bar a few nice little runs. Kane does what Kane does eventually, even though he's kept out of it for the first half. Second half, he was, comes back scoring a goal, hit the bar, unlucky with that header as well. Standouts, though, it's mostly Brentford players for me. I think
rumour has it, Kuva, rumour has it that Tony placed a bet, 2 bags on himself to get the man of the match.
Well, there you go. He's still a winner then.
Winning away from the pitch as well. Kuva, where can we catch you next? Where are you, and when are you on next?
Oh, it'll be the usual channels. The likes of Shelfside Spurs, Bob Spur TV. Bobby K and I do our Sunday night show on 3 Spurs Boys. Sava Talks Football on Sunday nights. Also tend to do quite a few shows with Sava over the week. And around the channels, bit of an internet slag, really.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, you've just set up your channel only recently with Bobby K, Kuva and the gang on a Sunday. Tell us a bit more about that one, what kind of show it is, and what time people can catch you on that.
It all stems from the sort of Shelfside Spurs in the Wall crowd. I think you're quite well aware of that particular crowd. You're in it. So it tends to go off the rails a bit, and we have a bit of a laugh being late at night and insult a few people, basically rip each other to shreds, play a few silly games. Bobby K and I do much the same sort of thing, but try and tone it down a bit, except for when some weeks it doesn't get toned down a bit, in which case we pull the plug. It's just trying to get away from the constant, angry, Spurs talk that we'll do the rest of the week. It's nice to just put your feet up sometimes and chill out. Ben's coffee shop as well, of course. Ben, the coffee company, good one to chill out to on the daytimes for just that change of pace. Something a little bit nicer, a little bit more friendly, and get away from the Spurs troubles, because we do have some.
Brilliant. So there you go, Kuva and the gang. You can catch them on Sundays. 3 Spurs Boys as well. Absolutely fantastic channels, and it's all sorts of craziness going on. If you don't know already, go on their channel on YouTube, click the subscribe button, and have a little watch. Certainly very interesting. But Kuva, thank you very much for your time today. Certainly an interesting conversation with regards to what's going on at Spurs at the moment. But it's always a pleasure to have you on, and hopefully next time.
Strange, isn't it? It's more interesting talking about what Conte says than what we do.
Absolutely. But hopefully next time we'll be talking about a Spurs win. And
that'll be nice.
Will be very nice. And till the next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Right, gang. And thank you very much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you very much to everyone who had their input on the chat. Just go through a few shout outs to the likes of Scott M, Rob Belcher, thank you very much. Brian Daigle, as always. Bob Spur and Bobby K, and Ben Kaufman as well. Thank you very much for your input, guys. Until the next one, we'll be back, I believe, for the Aston Villa game, and we'll be back for the match reaction for that one. So make sure you tune in, click the subscribe button, hit the like button. There will be a few more guests on next time, but as always, thank you very much, and come on.